Hello, Robbie Wong here, and I am joined by my co-host,
This is Winston Wall.
and we have a frozen arena for a second. It's going to think. So we ran the Vito deck, and the impression initially was the small critters kept getting eaten alive and stonewalled and stopped. So we took it into a more controlling fashion. Really loaded up the deck with some removal spells and some powerful finishers. We ended up with a 3 wins and 7 losses. So within that 10 set, and that's not a whole lot of data, but within those 10 games, we were only winning 30% of the time on screen. There's some
So
conclusions. Oh, go ahead.
I was just say so what were your wins are against what kind of decks?
I couldn't tell you offhand. I'd have to look at the. I mean, I know I just looked at it, but it was just a tally. Um, I felt like they were slightly faster than we were, and we managed to outlast them, and their aggro couldn't keep up. Like we ran those decks out of resources were the wins.
Right. So you beat the mid-range decks basically is what you beat. I think
Yeah,
is the way to look at it because you got run over by the you got run over by the aggro decks and you got handled by the control decks, right?
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of trample damage hit my face. I think Arena died. Well, you can see the screen. We'll finish the wrap up and then restart Arena. Release ready. Um, so yeah, and then we eked out 1 win against the Calyx sort of control deck, but I felt like some of those wins were mostly kind of gambling and lucking out on a really good Bolas Citadel series of cards. The now I will say this: so the win rate, and I think this is a good way to think about it. The first and foremost should be: are you having fun with the deck? Now that being said, winning is a lot of fun, and that gets you the gold and all of the in-game rewards and whatnot. But part of it too is the did did the deck win because you got lucky and the opponent didn't do anything, or did you win because you played cleverly? And then the next thought is, did you lose because you played poorly and the deck could have won? So I think all of those thoughts start to be more important than the actual win loss ratio. Now that being said, I will. We've done 3 so far on stream. We've played Niv Mizzet, we've played Keenan, and now we've played Vito. And Niv Mizzet and Keenan way more power level than this deck was providing. Way more oomph and power and finishing and card draw and all of those things.
So so as a follow-up question to that then is like for this deck, how important is the pilot skill? Like you as a player playing the deck, making the lines, are they harder to see? Are they more complex than the other two decks, or um, is it easier?
I think the complex part of piloting this was in the tutor spells that were periodically in. There's a couple of games where the knowledge of the deck will help you pull the more appropriate answer, or I know I need to play this 3 mana tutor to get this card and play it on the same turn. That that was some learning curve. I do think that the other decks had a little bit more complexity in the lines, and then this one was more of play threat, disrupt the hand, kill the most dangerous thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what you were also thinking about in this is like, which threat do I remove, when, and with which tool, right?
Hmm. Yeah, because there was that one game where exiling Perforos could have drastically changed that game. right? I think something else to seriously consider is the initial list that we started with made a lot of sweeping changes. So there's the distinct possibility that this is also crafting error, right? Like we built the deck, or we stole slash borrowed the deck, and we crafted it into a direction that is actually worse than where we started. So that's always something to acknowledge. Maybe there's somebody who plays Vito as their Brawl commander exclusively, and they're sitting there tearing their hair out because they understand the value of the cards that are in there, and I don't. So that's something to seriously consider. You know, when your deck looks very different than everybody else's stock list, there needs to be a really good reason, or you've made the less efficient choices.
Right. I mean, you consciously took out things that had lifelink, which is what Vito's synergy basically is. You want things with lifelink gaining you life so that you can drain them for that same amount of life. And but you took them out for more controlly and removal, and that was a conscious decision on your part. So you're purposely breaking the synergy to increase the power of the deck, as you would say.
Yeah, I made that choice, and if you're at home wondering why, it's I made that choice because I wanted to play more individually powerful cards, like these cards that exist by themselves. Oh, I can't highlight any of these right now. But like Knight of the Ebon Legion is probably, by all accounts, the more powerful one drop than the Bane Hound. So the Hound that's a one black mana, 1/1 haste and lifelink synergizes better with Vito, but Knight of the Ebon Legion is the better card. So I kept finding myself
Yeah.
in this position where I want to play the more powerful card. I want to play the more powerful card. So I'm interested in three directions to continue to take this deck, and we're going to continue to evolve this deck, and you'll see the way this channel is going to work is the recap video will be replaced whenever we have new thought, new deck list, like, oh, this is what happened. The deck got better, the deck got worse. There's three directions I'd be really interested to see this in. The first one is a more knight-centric build, because there is that knight smitten swordsmith that drains, and the knights have a lot of synergy. The second direction is vampires, because I am an addict to tribal themes, and I'd be really curious because the 6-mana Sorin Planeswalker has like drain 4, deal 4, gain 4. And then the third thing is switch the deck back to the more stock list, and no matter how much it hurts, ride the bike, gain the experience, and validate the theory. Because maybe those synergies are more powerful, and it's the piloting error. So,
or deck construction in this case.
Yeah, so those are the three directions I'd be interested. We're not going to focus so much on Vito in the next couple of days, but we will come back and revisit these. I have, after all, already spent the wild cards on them, so I might as well see where this goes. And oh, go ahead.
And I was going to say that maybe there's a deck where Vito is in the deck but not the commander of the deck.
Yep. Winston, you were mentioning that before the stream. Or during one of the streams, like why play Vito then? If you're going to play these more powerful cards. And I think that's a valid point. But Vito is legendary, so he's eligible to be a commander. And I think with that experiment in the future too, if the win rate goes up and the deck starts winning on its own without the pilot, like even when the pilot makes mistakes and the deck still wins, that to me is the sort of feeling I get with some decks that I play, that I could mess up all over the place and the deck is just dragging me to the victory line. And I felt that a couple of times in the last couple of years, The first deck was the Yarick Field deck when Field of the Dead and Yarick were legal in Standard, and before Field of the Dead was banned, unbanned in Historic. That deck, I could make all kinds of errors, and it just didn't matter. There's zombies everywhere being like, it's okay, you're still gonna win. And Yarok just generating infinite value. And then when the Naya Winota deck came out in Historic, before people figured out that they need to start playing some more instant speed removal to interact with, it kind of didn't matter what I did. As long as I made the semi-logical choice, things would start to fall in place. So I think that's the direction you want to take all of the decks that you're playing, especially ones that you find entertaining and fun. But then the experiment of, if I can make this deck that and this commander that isn't quite as powerful as these others, but you can maximize as much power as possible from it, I think that's a valuable experience, because then you can start to be a little bit better at assessing cards relationships to other cards, and making sure that your deck hums. Did I lose you, Winston? Right.
No,
Oh,
I'm
okay,
here.
okay.
Sorry, you did cut out there in the end, and so I wasn't sure when you were done talking. But yeah, just I mean, even just in terms of like what other possible commanders you could have in this Brawl deck, and you've got Erebos, you've got Ayara, you've got Rankle, and they're all legendary also. And we saw in one of the games, Massacre Girl also, of course, is you could have as a commander, and if you took it more in the terms of like a mono black devotion type thing, then Ayara might be a better choice. That would be easier to get Erebos online, and you would have 3 black pips at the hand, on hand. So yeah, those are, you have to think about, like, do you want to be mono black aggro, right? And that's where your low drops make a much bigger splash. Or do you want to be like black and white aggro and then just run Vito in the 60, where you have access to all of white's life gain, and not focus so much on removing the opponent's threats, but just getting that life link in and doing double damage while gaining life at the same time.
Lightning Helix.
And I can't hear you. So.
Can't hear me. Uh-oh. That's not good.
So while Robbie works through those technical difficulties of me not hearing him, should we just sign off? You can nod, or yeah. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. We'll have a new deck. I think Robbie has said that having been beaten into the ground by some of the aggressive decks, that he wants to take a hand at playing Gruul and smashing the opponent. So we'll see how that goes.